Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Between the Lines. My name is John Lofton. I hope you guys are having a great rest. Ooh, sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. I hope you guys are having a great rest of your day. I am definitely excited for Labor Day. I am definitely excited to relax here in Iowa. We're having some beautiful weather, and it's just it's gorgeous outside. So I hope if you're anywhere near the Midwest right now, enjoying the nice weather, you're outside, maybe having me on the Bluetooth speaker, letting the family listen too. That'd be awesome. And make sure while you're looking at the video and you're pairing it up to your Bluetooth speaker, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel out quite a bit. We're brand new out here. Give us a share too. Let all your friends know about what we're doing here, about a very centralized way of looking at what's going on in the world, and then trying to break it down from multiple sides and opinions. And then, at the end of the day, hopefully you come away with your own understanding and wanting to go out and do your own research on the subject. And hopefully we become a more wise society and not just kind of believing whatever the first thing that comes across our newsfeed is. So, that's always the goal for the show. Today's episode, a little different. Today was actually a fairly light news day, somewhat fairly light news week. Nothing that really caught my mind of anything that we haven't seen or been dealing with before. So I was thinking about Labor Day, and I was thinking how, well, one, I never get Labor Day off, ever, it seems like. I'm working tomorrow at my job because I work for a news station. I know, ironic, right? I talk about media and all that, and I work for a news station. There you go. But I'm an engineer. I have nothing to do with the on-air side, thankfully. And I was thinking about, those type of industries go on. Retail goes on. In fact, I feel like where my wife works at, whose company shall not be named, but they're very public about this. It's not hard to find. Not only if Raven our producer, doesn't show up to work tomorrow, not only will she get a normal penalty that she would if she were to call out for work, but she will also receive double the penalty. So 2 strikes where she's at. Just because she missed a core or critical day. And to me, that's crap, because this was a federal holiday. Now, I realize certain industries, even retail, have to have some staff. Everybody's got to need something. But I do miss the days where we could close on a federal holiday. I miss the days where things just slowed down. If it was a federal holiday, things just slowed down. You weren't trying to chase and go get something from the store. You weren't looking for the opportunity to spend money, but most businesses want you to. You weren't hyper-focused in your family picnic about talking about politics necessarily. I know that's been a long time ago since we have read that. Just don't listen to your Uncle Harry and his crazy conspiracy theories about how the aliens attacked Joe Biden at Area 51, and that's why we have communism. No, okay, that was way out of left field, but I thought that was kind of funny. It's a joke, folks. And that was totally out of my head too. I was just trying to think of something crazy someone, with crazy theories might say. We obviously know how to tell the difference between our Uncle Harry and some of the stuff we can read online, because a lot of people can pull facts and statistics out of everything and present them to you in a way that's just about believable. And you always have to kind of keep your little liometer kind of handy. I call it a different name sometimes off camera, and I probably shouldn't, and I'm not going to say it here. But it's just one of those things. You always have a sense of skepticism, when you read something that doesn't quite make sense. But today we're talking about hope, and we're talking about maybe a little bit of idealism, and maybe just a little bit about, reminiscing about, times gone by, how things used to be, maybe how things ought to be, run again and all of that. And I think that there's different viewpoints, but I'm going to boil them down to basically 2 camps. You have your folks who are let's call them federalists, if we want to go way, way back to the origins of the country. And then you, of course, have your independent, self-controlling kind of government people and all of that. So let's talk about in more modern times, let's just say liberals and conservatives. And let's just say for the sake of argument, they all have their visions for the future. Now, it's no secret a lot of conservatives think about the past and they think about, well, when I was younger, it used to be like this. Or when I was younger, it was so much worse. Look how much further and progressive we've gotten now. And I think you have kind of two paths. Now, I'm not saying all Republicans and all Democrats think like that. Um, because they don't. And I don't mean to stereotype anybody into one particular camp, but when you're trying to make things somewhat simple to understand, it's the easiest, it's the lowest common denominator, if you will, to just say, here's your two camps, and you're probably somewhere in the middle. I hope you are somewhere in the middle, actually. I know I am, and it's not a bad thing. Being somewhere in the middle means that you're an open-minded person, that you have the ability to think about something more critically than just if, you always were influenced by the one side or the other. So that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit today. Now, normally I tell a story. I don't have a great story, for you guys. It is difficult, um, in my early adult years, even now into my 30s, to try to come up with something that I think was better back then, or something that I really wish would change, other than going back to more faith-based, society. I would love that from me personally, but that's not why I do the show. It's because I want to see a lot of different people's opinions, and I want to research and try to understand them and then bring them to you. Um, so please like and subscribe, like I've said. Make sure you put your comments down and below. What's something that's going on in our country today that you either like or don't like? And be specific. Don't give me a generic statement. Or what's something, depending on which side of the camp you're on, what's something that maybe was better, back when you were younger, or back when a certain generation were around, and maybe what needs to improve. Maybe you're saying on the other side of this camp, maybe there's too much oppression, there's too much medical bills going on. We need more progressive thinking. And I don't really care what the issue is. I want to know, and that gives me an idea for the things that people think about, on days like today. So one of the things too that I wanted to do is just give you a brief history. Do you actually know where Labor Day originated? Now I know a lot of people are about to Google this. Please don't. Give me your thoughts. Just random thoughts in the comments too, and just think if you can, identify that. And I'm gonna give it a couple minutes here just to see if some live comments happen to come through. We've been really lacking on our comments, folks. So I'm gonna call some folks out who I know watch, but don't always comment. And so I want to make sure, encourage you guys. I would love the feedback. I really would. It's the only way I'm able to grow and kind of figure out what you guys like and what you don't like, what's good, what's bad, and kind of figure out a direction that I can steer the show to gauge my new evolving audience. So that really helps me out a lot. Anyway, I'll tell you from me personally. Again, this is John talking to you from a personal perspective. All right. So when I think about what's going on in the world today, and I agree, there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of unrest. There's things like you guys saw me a couple weeks ago talking about Afghanistan and all that. My heart still aches for those folks. My heart aches for any Christians that are there. Because that they're going to be persecuted. That women and children and things like that, the control that the Taliban are going to have on those folks is going to be so overly oppressing. It's not even going to be funny, and not even something. It's downright just abysmal. Frankly, it's despicable. It's every adjective word that I can say about it. It's to me, it might as well be a more violent version, even maybe, of North Korea. Now, I'm using that somewhat loosely, but um, I just think that that's kind of where they'll end up, kind of this isolated nation with barely any friends, and with a lot of enemies though. But I just think that there's a good chance that what's going on in Afghanistan is only going to go downhill from here. Um, a- and so I think about what's going on in the world today, and I just wish that terrorists like that, if you're so radical thinking that you're willing to disregard, even if you think that you're doing something holy, which any any god, frankly, even in the Muslim faith, would never condone killing innocent people ever. And I know that that's the majority of how Muslims believe. Certainly, obviously, Christians and things like that would never condone, killing innocent people. And if you're about to get in the comment section and start talking about some Old Testament wars and things like that, there are context things that you probably should read a little further before you post on this particular video. And I'm not going to get into them, but those things drive me crazy when people point that stuff out. Yes, there was killing in the Bible and things like that, but that's not what I'm getting at. And when talking about what's going on today, we're not in any type of holy war as a Christian, and we're not in those times, and we're not in that narrative. Okay. Anyway, moving on. I wish that we could have a day where no matter what platform you stand on for issues, um, you find a way, especially on like a Labor Day, to just not argue, not let yourself voluntarily have those emotions. Focus on all of the good things that are going on, because you're going to go back to work. You're going to go back to school, or whatever it is that you're doing. And this weekend by the United States is set aside as a special holiday to acknowledge the working class of America. And I'm going to now tie into that a little bit. And so why waste today on issues that either you can't control yourself, or just mindless bickering and mindless just letting your mind be consumed about everything else? Maybe take today as a way to disengage. I know our family today, aside from obviously what I'm doing here, um, I'm doing my research for the show and all that, but like I haven't been watching just regular YouTube videos. I'm not on Facebook right now throughout the rest of the day. If I do get a comment later today, I may look at it, I may not. But we're trying to take a day as a family and detox from like Netflix, YouTube, you know, television in general, and just put our devices down, except for like essential communications with, our family or certain friends, if we need to. But otherwise, not focusing on like being entertained or gathering information from, our media sources. And I think that's a good thing to do today. And I would encourage you and your family to try it. If not today, pick a day. If it's easier to do it on a weekend, do it then. I think that you'll find a lot of benefit, and it might give you time to reflect, because instead of every day being bombarded with new information that's going to trigger an emotion, just think about the stuff that's already happened, and then think about the things that are good in your life, and think about the different things that you can do with the folks that are in your life that you do care about, or that care about you. Um, because nothing is going to happen in this world, in the end, that you're going to be able to take with you. Nothing is going to happen that is going to, radically change overnight. And so spending just one day, even completely disconnecting. I have been wanting for years to go on just like a camping trip where, I might bring a GPS device just in case I get lost, but I don't want to bring much else. I just kind of want to go chill for like a week, like a sabbatical kind of thing, and not think about things. I would love that, and hopefully one day I'll get to do that. You know, with a young family, it's not the easiest to do, but anyway, and maybe you guys have thought about that. So whatever it is that's gonna help you kind of disengage, make you relax. Maybe it's just taking the time today to take a nap. You know, hopefully this show's not putting you to sleep. But hopefully you find time to rest, you know. Rest is good, and so many of us do not get enough of it. I know I don't. And part of it's medical, part of it's just me with poor sleep habits. But you know, there are nights, I'll go several nights where I might only get maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep in the night, and you know, carry on the whole rest of the day, and then maybe crash in the afternoon for an hour or two. It's not healthy. So I would encourage you, don't be like me and take a nap, even if that's what it takes to kind of just clear your mind, zone out. Just find a way, even if it's not today, just let your mind kind of just relax. And then what I hope you gain after doing that, and maybe using Labor Day as an excuse to do that after I tell you where it actually came from, um, maybe start to think differently. I find sometimes that when I'm really upset or really confused by a situation or having a difficult time, you know, processing that information, that walking away really actually does help. And doing something else or just taking a break, even for just a few minutes, and then coming back to whatever the problem is, you find that you sometimes have a better solution. We've probably heard that since we were kids. And I do think that there's a lot of truth to that. And so it sounds simple, but sometimes the simplest things are the ones that we can overlook the most. Now, going over here to my article, and I believe this would be what you would consider a trustworthy source. So we'll go ahead and switch over. Whoops, there we go. So this is from the U.S. Department of Labor, and it talks all about the very history of Labor Day, when it was started, when it was formed, and the, I guess you would call it conspiracy, or the debate as to who actually came up with Labor Day. I'm going to make this bigger for you guys so you can see it a little bit easier. But you can see some of the earliest pictures. So the first observed Labor Day was in September. Labor Day annual celebration of the social and economic achievements of the American workers. The holiday is noted in the late 19th century when labor activists pushed for a federal holiday to recognize the many contributions workers have made to America's strength, prosperity, and well-being. And we talk about some of the early adopters. This is interesting. So the debate is between one of these two gentlemen, McGuire versus Maguire, who founded Labor Day. Now, I won't read this whole thing, but you're welcome to do this. Now, I left a link to this in our show notes, which of course is at the bottom. It's a Google Drive link. You can go on down there and download the PDF file of my instant notes that I made, but it'll have the link to this article in there too. Okay, so some records show that in 1882, Peter J. McGuire, General Secretary of the Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners, and a co-founder of the American Federation of Labor, suggested setting aside a day for a general holiday for the laboring classes to honor those who from rude nature have delved and carved all the grandeur we behold. Wow, it's interesting to say that because I read the word rude and it has a different connotation than obviously what they're implying here. But anyway, so funny how the English language has changed too. But Peter McGuire's place in Labor Day history, not gun and challenged. Recent research seems to support the contention that Matthew McGuire, later the secretary of Local 344 of the International Association of Mechanists and in Paterson, New Jersey, proposed the holiday in 1882 while serving as secretary of the Central Labor Union in New York. Now, they appealed to I'm going to kind of talk about the first how it was actually done. So President Cleveland, who signed the law creating the National Labor Day, the Patterson Morning Call published an opinion piece stating that the sovereign, I'm not even going to read all of this, but you guys get the idea, that McGuire of the city, who is the undisputed author of Labor Day as a holiday. You know what? Whoever started it, it's just more interesting that their last names are basically the same, just spelled a little bit differently. But the first Labor Day was celebrated on Tuesday, September 5th, in 1882 in New York City. It was a parade. Now, the original intention of the parade was to show off the different trades and disciplines that that were around back then. And many Americans celebrate the Labor Day, of course, now with parades and picnics, and it's become much more of a family day or a day of relaxation. Back then, it was just a way to kind of showcase the American laboring force. Now, I would propose, too, that, if you're an able-bodied person of working age, work. It's what we do. We are human beings, contribute to society and all of that. If you can work, work. I understand disabilities and other factors like that. But that's what built this country, was the same people who this holiday was created for, the laborers. And I mean, I'm sure we have way better work benefits now than we did, way back then, as far as vacation, pay time off, family sick leave. I mean, think about it. Those things didn't really exist back then. So understand that, back then working conditions were much harder, and there was a lot more manual labor. We didn't have technology jobs like we do today. So, it's just something that I think you all should be thinking about too, and considering. So, but yeah, anyway, I just think that that's be a good idea for you guys to kind of think about those things. Think about the hard work that it actually took too. Politics aside, it takes work. And if you're a plumber, if you're if you're an electrician, if you're like a lineman, if you are a carpenter or any kind of the trades, maybe you're an oil worker. Maybe you work in the Gulf Coast and, on an oil platform. That's one of the toughest and deadliest jobs around. If you're a fisherman, if you're doing any of these trades that a lot of people who don't want to put in the physical labor it takes each day to get up, say thank you to someone like that. We have a great time for our veterans and Army and all of those folks. But knowing that your neighbor probably does a really hard job and, they get up super early in the morning and sometimes don't get home really late, doing a job or a service, that you ultimately benefit from, especially like electricians and, gas line workers, those type of folks, we can't live without them. Our society crumbles. Look at the hurricane in Louisiana. Iowa, I know, sent a bunch of folks down there from, of course, the Red Cross and all that, but we also, there was a tree service company here local that sent a bunch of their workers down to help. I know that there's been extra linemen and electricians that have gone down there to help and to try to get them back on their feet a little bit. And so that's just something I want you guys to think about. And so whatever the issue is, whatever your political opinion is, know that our common feature here and our hope is the people that continue to work and build this country. And if you work in IT and you're solving big problems, you're keeping people's data safe, those jobs are important too. And sometimes I know, I read something a while back ago, the folks like at Google sometimes will put in like 50 or 60 hours a week, even if they're not required to, just so they can finish a project. It is a fun job to have, but also I'm told it's a very demanding job. I know working for Amazon's the same. I remember watching a YouTube video, some years ago, about what it takes to actually get a piece of software approved for an app. You know, how many revisions and checks and quality scores it goes. And even if you didn't, notate something correctly, they'll send it back. The code may be right and not flawed at all, but those type of jobs too require recognition, and I think you should take a break as well. So even if you can't take a break and your job requires you to work on the holiday, next day off you have, treat it as if it's your Labor Day, and do something extra special. If not with your family, do it for yourself, um, and then once you're done and the end of that day comes, then start to think about the world again. Start thinking about, what you and most of America have in common that are also working for the betterment of our good, for the betterment of our country. That kind of keeps the cogs turning. No matter what it is, we all have a role to do. We all have a job. We all have a purpose here. And we all have something to contribute. Even if you don't work regularly, maybe you are disabled, maybe you have significant medical issues, or whatever circumstance it is that prevents you from, having a job or starting your own business, and those type of things. You still have something to contribute. Maybe there's some volunteering you can do. Maybe there's online work that you can do, to help out. I'm just saying, whatever level that you are able to contribute, do it. Because the more you contribute and the more you are passionate about something, it tends to make you a little less cynical about some other things going on. It doesn't give you enough time to start dwelling and carrying on about everything else going on in the world. But unfortunately, we still get our fair amount of share. That's where Between the Lines comes in. That's where I hope to help you guys kind of take all of this information, give you as best of unbiased facts as I can. Yes, of course, I share my biased opinion, but I tell you why, and I tell you how I came up to it. So this gives you something to think about. So even if you don't agree with me, it allows you to think about a different person's perspective, and then you start thinking about your perspective and how did you come up to that conclusion? What research did you do? And then it allows you to have better conversations with your neighbors and your family, and lead to a little bit better world. And I think it starts about what we're passionate about, what we're contributing back, whether it's work or volunteering or church, whatever the case may be. Give something back, and don't be stagnant. Don't just let yourself sit in a place just because it's comfortable. You got to be uncomfortable. Try a different job. If you're really, really not happy in the one you're in, labor market's really hot right now. It's not terribly hard to find a job. So I would encourage you, whatever it is that you need to do, be passionate about it, be bold in it. The work that was done to form this country was hard and tedious and tough and, dangerous. And we have a lot more protections now. We have much more modern equipment. We have much better systems in place. Why? Because of ingenuity, because of God-given talents and strengths that have made a difference in medical science. The nurses, the doctors who worked tirelessly, especially over this last year, with the influx of patients in dealing with the disease that, until late last year, we didn't even have a cure for. Now that's debatable, and I realize I just might have been opening up a can of worms, but hopefully now that you hear me say that and you hear all the other things I said, maybe your immediate attention didn't go to where it might have gone by default if I had just said that at the beginning. Well, anyway, my time is just about up here. Again, I just want to thank you all for taking the time out of your holiday to watch the show. It means a lot to me. I can't even tell you how cool it is to go out, and I realize the numbers don't show this as well as I would like them to, but I know that people are starting to watch this show. I know it because they've come up to me in passing and say, "Hey, I saw your show. It's good. I like it." And I thank you. Thank you. Always going to thank you so much for just your time and willingness to listen. This show, when I started it over 6 months ago now, in a very early beta, it was tough, and I wasn't sure if it was going to do anything at all. I didn't know if I'd be doing this 6 months later. But I've had enough encouragement, enough drive, enough willingness to see this thing through that even when I was having my kidney transplant, I didn't miss a Sunday. Why? Because I care about you guys. I care about trying to draw some middle ground, if you will, or at least try to think about what's going on in the world from a different perspective. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Again, my name is John Lofton. This is Between the Lines. I hope you'll join us back next Sunday at 4 p.m. Central Time here on YouTube or Facebook.com. Until then, guys, take care and God bless.
Like and subscribe Jay's channel Between the Lines, please.